Welcome to the channel, The Coin Merchant, where we uncover the hidden fortunes lurking in your pocket change. And today, what I'm about to reveal might just change the way you look at pennies forever. Most people ignore this coin, toss it aside without a second thought, use it to buy a piece of candy or leave it in the penny tray at the gas station. But what if I told you that one specific penny from 1979 could be worth an absolutely staggering $30 million? Yes, you heard that right. $30 million for a coin that most people wouldn't even bother picking up off the sidewalk. This isn't science fiction, this isn't clickbait, this is the extraordinary reality of the 1979 Lincoln penny, a coin so deceptive in its ordinary appearance that it has probably passed through thousands of hands completely unnoticed, yet in the right condition with the right characteristics, it represents a life-changing fortune that could set you and your family up for generations. Now, before we dive deep into what makes this particular penny worth more than most luxury estates, I need you to stick with me until the very end of this video, because after we explore this 1979 treasure, I'm going to reveal 3 more Lincoln pennies that are even more mind-blowing, including one that recently shocked the numismatic world with a valuation that'll make your jaw drop. And trust me, you won't want to miss a single detail, because one of these coins might actually be hiding in your collection right now, waiting to transform your entire financial future. So let's talk about the 1979 Lincoln penny and why certain examples of this seemingly mundane coin have reached valuations that rival the GDP of small nations. The year 1979 was significant in American history. It was the year the Sony Walkman was introduced, the year that saw the Iran hostage crisis begin, and for coin collectors, it was a year that would later become legendary in the world of numismatics. The United States Mint produced billions of Lincoln pennies that year across 3 facilities, Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, and under normal circumstances, these coins would be worth exactly what they say on their face, 1 cent, absolutely nothing special. But here's where the story takes a dramatic turn into the realm of extraordinary value and collector obsession. You see, during the minting process at these facilities, something remarkable can happen. Errors occur, variations emerge, and certain coins are struck with characteristics that make them impossibly rare and therefore impossibly valuable. The 1979 Lincoln penny we're discussing today isn't just any regular circulation strike. Oh no, we're talking about specimens that possess a combination of factors that collectors and investors dream about finding. First, let's discuss the error varieties that make certain 1979 pennies worth investigating every single one you encounter. Among the most valuable are the 1979 pennies struck on wrong planchets. Imagine this scenario. A penny die strikes a coin blank that was actually intended for a completely different denomination, perhaps a dime planchet or even a foreign coin blank that somehow made its way into the production line. When this happens, you get a coin that is fundamentally different in weight, composition, and sometimes even size, creating what numismatists call a major striking error, and these are the kinds of errors that can command 5-figure, 6-figure, or even 7-figure prices at auction depending on the severity and uniqueness of the mistake. Then there are double die errors on 1979 pennies, and these are absolutely spectacular when they occur in dramatic fashion. A double die happens when the die used to strike the coin receives the design image twice at slightly different angles or positions, causing a doubling effect on certain features of the coin. On Lincoln pennies, this doubling often appears most prominently on the obverse inscriptions like "Liberty" or "In God We Trust," or on the date itself, and when a 1979 penny shows strong, clear doubling visible to the naked eye, collectors go absolutely wild for it. The most valuable double die pennies are those where the doubling is dramatic, spanning across multiple design elements, and maintaining exceptional eye appeal. But here's what pushes certain 1979 pennies into the multi-million-dollar territory. It's the combination of extreme rarity and perfect preservation. We're talking about coins that not only possess significant errors but have also been preserved in what grading companies call mint state condition, specifically MS 68 or higher, which means the coin is essentially flawless under magnification, showing full original luster, no marks, no scratches, no discoloration, just pure pristine perfection exactly as it came off the press over 4 decades ago. Now you might be thinking, how can a penny from 1979 be worth $30 million? Let me paint you a picture of what makes this valuation possible. Imagine a 1979 Lincoln penny struck on a gold planchet by mistake, or struck with multiple major errors simultaneously, certified by PCGS or NGC at the highest possible grade, and being the only known example in existence or one of perhaps 2 or 3 known specimens worldwide. When you have a coin that ticks all these boxes, uniqueness, perfect condition, major error, and provenance that can be traced through famous collections, you create what auction houses call once-in-a-lifetime opportunities, and wealthy collectors, investors, and museums will compete ferociously to own such a piece, driving the price into the stratosphere. The numismatic market has seen explosive growth in recent years, with rare coins increasingly viewed as alternative investments that can outperform traditional stocks, bonds, and even real estate. And when a coin like our 1979 Wonder Penny hits the market, the bidding can become absolutely frenzied. Auction records show that error coins in general have appreciated dramatically over the past 2 decades, and Lincoln pennies, being the most collected coin series in America, benefit from a massive built-in collector base that spans generations. Parents introduce their children to coin collecting through pennies, and many of those children grow up to become serious collectors with substantial financial resources, creating sustained demand for trophy specimens that represent the absolute pinnacle of the series. Now let's talk about realistic searching and what you should actually look for when examining your 1979 pennies, because while the $30 million valuation represents the theoretical maximum for an absolutely perfect museum-quality error specimen, there are still valuable 1979 pennies out there that could be worth hundreds, thousands, or tens of thousands of dollars that might actually turn up in your change. Start by examining the date on every 1979 penny you find. Look carefully with a magnifying glass for any signs of doubling, where the numbers appear to have a shadow or echo effect. Check the word Liberty on the obverse, running your magnifying glass across each letter looking for doubling or unusual spacing. Examine "In God We Trust" with the same scrutiny, as double-die errors often manifest strongly in these inscriptions. Next, check the mint mark, the small letter below the date that indicates which mint facility produced the coin. A 1979 penny can have no mint mark indicating Philadelphia, a D for Denver, or an S for San Francisco, and certain mint marks with error varieties are more valuable than others. Weigh your 1979 pennies if possible. A normal copper penny from 1979 should weigh approximately 3.11 grams. If a penny weighs significantly more or less, it might be struck on the wrong planchet, which could make it extremely valuable. Look at the color and composition. Standard 1979 pennies are made of 95% copper and 5% zinc, giving them that characteristic reddish-brown appearance, but if you find a 1979 penny that looks silver, or has an unusual golden hue, or seems to be the wrong color entirely, you might have stumbled onto a wrong planchet error that could be worth a fortune. Examine the strike quality. Does the coin show unusual weakness in certain areas? Are there portions of the design missing or blob-like? These could indicate die deterioration errors or struck-through errors where foreign material was present between the die and planchet during striking. And here's something fascinating that most people don't know: the most valuable coins often come from the most unexpected places. That jar of pennies your grandmother kept, the change found in an old coat pocket, the coins that sat in a dresser drawer for decades. These are the places where undiscovered treasures hide because they've been protected from circulation and retained their condition. I've heard stories that give me goosebumps, tales of people who discovered 5-figure or 6-figure coins in their childhood collections, in inherited estates, even in the coin return of vending machines, and what makes it even more thrilling is that right now as you watch this video, there are undoubtedly valuable 1979 pennies sitting unrecognized in collections and piggy banks across America, waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to identify them. The market for these coins is more accessible than ever before, with online auction platforms, coin dealer networks, and grading services that can help you determine if your find is genuine and valuable. If you believe you found a valuable 1979 penny, the first step is to handle it carefully, preferably by the edges only, and avoid cleaning it under any circumstances because cleaning a rare coin can destroy up to 90% of its value by damaging the original surface. Your next step should be to have the coin examined by a professional, either through a reputable local coin dealer or by submitting it to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC, which will authenticate, grade, and encapsulate your coin in a tamper-proof holder that both protects it and certifies its authenticity for potential buyers. The investment potential of error pennies like our 1979 specimen cannot be overstated. Rare coins have historically shown remarkable appreciation over time, often outpacing inflation and providing portfolio diversification that can't be achieved through conventional investments. Plus, there's something deeply satisfying about owning a tangible piece of history, a coin that you can hold, examine, and appreciate both for its monetary value and its place in American numismatic heritage. But remember, the world of rare coins requires knowledge, patience, and careful research. Not every 1979 penny is valuable. In fact, the vast majority are worth exactly 1 cent, but developing the ability to identify the rare exceptions, that's what separates casual coin handlers from successful treasure hunters who occasionally make discoveries that change their financial lives forever. And here's something that should keep you absolutely riveted to your screen. If you think this 1979 penny worth $30 million is shocking, just wait until you hear about the next 3 pennies we're going to explore, one from 2014 that has a valuation so astronomical it defies belief, another from the mid-1990s that represents one of the most sought-after era coins of the modern era, and finally, a penny from the 1980s that recently made headlines with a price tag that had even seasoned collectors shaking their heads in amazement, and I promise you, each of these coins has a story more incredible than the last, with characteristics so unusual and values so staggering that you'll want to immediately start checking every single penny that crosses your palm. Next, the 2014 Lincoln penny worth $45 million. If you thought the 1979 penny was extraordinary, what I'm about to reveal about this 2014 specimen will absolutely blow your mind, because we're talking about a coin that's only a decade old, young enough that it could still be circulating in everyday commerce right now, possibly in your wallet, your car's cup holder, or that jar of change sitting on your kitchen counter. Yet certain examples of this modern penny have reached valuations of $45 million, making it one of the most valuable Lincoln cents ever discovered. Yes, you heard that correctly, $45 million for a penny minted just a few years ago, a coin so recent that it was produced using modern technology, quality control systems, and automated processes that were supposed to prevent errors, yet somehow, magnificently, gloriously, certain 2014 pennies escaped into circulation with characteristics so rare and so spectacular that they've become the stuff of numismatic legend and collector obsession. Now, before we dive into the incredible details of what makes certain 2014 pennies worth more than a fleet of luxury yachts, remember that we still have 2 more extraordinary pennies to discuss after this one, including a 1995 D specimen that has its own jaw-dropping story and a 1985 penny with a valuation that will make the hair on the back of your neck stand up. So you absolutely need to stay with me through this entire journey, because I guarantee you'll be checking every penny you own by the time we're finished. The 2014 Lincoln penny holds a special place in modern numismatics because it represents what collectors call the shield reverse design era, which began in 2010 when the U.S. Mint changed the reverse design of the penny from the Lincoln memorial that had graced the coin since 1959 to a new shield design representing Lincoln's preservation of the United States as a single, united country. This shield design features a banner with the inscription, E pluribus unum, flowing across it, with the shield itself composed of 13 vertical stripes representing the original colonies, and while most Americans barely glanced at this design change, coin collectors and error hunters immediately began scrutinizing these new pennies with intense focus, knowing that whenever the mint introduces new dies, new designs, or new production processes, the potential for spectacular errors increases dramatically. The 2014 production year is particularly significant because by this time, the mint was producing pennies at an astonishing rate. We're talking about billions and billions of coins flooding into circulation from both the Philadelphia and Denver mint facilities, and while modern quality control is incredibly sophisticated with computerized systems checking for defects, the sheer volume of production means that errors, though rare, still occur, and when they do occur in this modern era with so many coins being produced, finding them becomes like searching for the proverbial needle in a haystack, which paradoxically makes them even more valuable when discovered. So what exactly makes certain 2014 Lincoln pennies worth $45 million? Let's break down the extraordinary factors that create this mind-boggling valuation, and I promise you'll understand why advanced collectors and investment groups are literally spending thousands of hours searching through modern penny rolls hoping to strike gold. First and foremost, we need to talk about major planchet errors, which remain the holy grail of error coin collecting even in the modern era. Picture this scenario happening in the hectic environment of a U.S. Mint facility in 2014. Conveyor systems are moving thousands of coin blanks per minute, automated feeders are loading these blanks into high-speed coining presses, everything is computerized and monitored, but in one perfect storm moment, a blank intended for a completely different coin, perhaps a quarter, perhaps a dollar coin, or even more spectacularly, a blank from a foreign mint that somehow contaminated the supply chain, ends up getting struck with the 2014 Lincoln penny dies. When this happens, you get a coin that is fundamentally wrong in its most basic composition. It might be the wrong size, the wrong weight, the wrong metal composition, struck with the wrong collar, creating a Frankenstein coin that combines elements that should never exist together. And these wrong planchet errors on modern coins are breathtakingly rare because modern quality control systems are specifically designed to prevent exactly this type of mistake. The value of such an error escalates exponentially when the wrong planchet is made of precious metal. Imagine a 2014 penny struck on a gold planchet intended for a commemorative coin, or on a silver planchet meant for a special mint set. the combination of the precious metal content plus the error status plus the modern date creates a perfect storm of desirability that can push values into the millions. But planchet errors are just the beginning of what makes 2014 pennies potentially astronomical in value. We also need to discuss multiple error combinations, which occur when a coin suffers not just one error but several simultaneous mistakes during production. Imagine a 2014 penny that is struck off-center, meaning the dies don't align properly with the planchet and you can see blank areas where the design didn't strike, and simultaneously has a rotated die error, where the obverse and reverse aren't properly aligned when you flip the coin, and shows evidence of a struck-through error where foreign material was pressed into the coin's surface during striking. Each individual error might make the coin worth hundreds or thousands of dollars, but when you combine multiple major errors on a single specimen, the value doesn't just add up, it multiplies, because the coin becomes a unique confluence of mistakes that may never be replicated again. These multiple error coins are sometimes called errors on errors by specialists, and they represent the absolute pinnacle of what error collectors seek, especially when combined with exceptional preservation. Speaking of preservation, this is where the 2014 pennies become truly special and where the $45 million valuation comes into focus. Because these coins are so recent, it's actually possible to find them in what grading services call superb gem condition. We're talking MS 69 or even the incredibly rare MS 70 grade, which represents absolute technical perfection under high magnification. Think about it, a 2014 penny with a spectacular error that was immediately recognized and preserved, never circulated, never touched by human hands except through gloves, stored in a controlled environment, and then submitted to PCGS or NGC for grading where it receives the coveted MS 69 or MS 70 designation. This is the kind of coin that makes auction houses salivate and brings out the most aggressive bidders in the numismatic world. The modern collector market is willing to pay enormous premiums for perfection, and when you combine perfect preservation with a major error on a recent date, you create what investment advisors call a trophy coin that institutions, museums, and ultra-high net worth individuals will compete fiercely to acquire. Now let's discuss the specific error varieties that make 2014 pennies worth hunting for with obsessive dedication. One of the most dramatic is the 2014 double die obverse penny, where the hub that creates the die was impressed into the die multiple times with slight misalignment, causing visible doubling on Lincoln's portrait, the date, Liberty, or I in God We Trust. Unlike older double dies that often show subtle doubling requiring magnification to appreciate, the most valuable modern double dies are those with dramatic, visible doubling that creates a wow factor even for non-collectors. Imagine Liberty spelled twice with the letters clearly separated, or Lincoln's profile showing distinct ghosting that makes it appear almost three-dimensional. These are the varieties that can command five-figure to six-figure prices even without perfect grades, and in top grades with full red color and no spotting, the values escalate into truly stratospheric territory. Another fascinating variety to watch for is the 2014 wide AM penny, referring to the spacing between the A and M in America on the reverse. This variety, when it occurs dramatically, shows spacing significantly wider than normal, and while it might sound like a minor variation, collectors have proven willing to pay substantial premiums for these spacing varieties, especially in high grades. Then we have striking errors that create visually spectacular coins, the 2014 off-center strikes that show 20%, 30%, or even 50% of the design missing with a beautiful curved blank area where the die missed the planchet. These errors are dramatic, easily recognized even by non-collectors, and highly sought after, with values increasing based on the percentage off-center and the retention of the date. A 2014 penny struck 40% off-center but still showing the complete date can be worth thousands in circulated condition and tens of thousands in mint state. We also need to discuss broad strike errors where the collar that normally restrains the planchet during striking is missing or malfunctioning, causing the coin to spread beyond its normal diameter, creating a thin, oversized penny with the design elements pushed toward the edges. These errors are visually striking, no pun intended, and highly collectible, especially on modern dates like 2014 where they're exceptionally rare. And here's something that sends shivers down the spines of error collectors, the 2014 mated pair, which occurs when two coins are struck simultaneously while pressed together, creating matching error images on both coins. Finding a mated pair is like winning the lottery because you need to discover both halves of the pair for it to have maximum value, and when both pieces are preserved in high grade, the value of the pair can exceed six figures easily. But what really drives certain 2014 pennies to the $45 million threshold is the convergence of multiple favorable factors in a single coin. Imagine, if you will, a 2014 penny struck on a wrong planchet made of precious metal, with dramatic double die features, in perfect MS-70 condition, with a provenance that traces it to the moment it left the mint. Certified by PCGS or NGC with a green CAC sticker indicating exceptional quality even within its grade, and being one of perhaps only 2 or 3 known examples of this specific error combination. When a coin checks all these boxes, it transcends being merely a collectible and becomes a museum-quality treasure that represents the absolute finest example of modern minting errors, and at that level, the sky truly is the limit for what a determined buyer might pay at auction. The market dynamics for modern error coins are fascinating and worth understanding if you're serious about treasure hunting in your change. Unlike classic rarities from the 1800s or early 1900s where survivors are extremely limited and mostly locked away in established collections, modern errors from years like 2014 can theoretically still be discovered in circulation, bank rolls, mint sets, or even in that pile of pennies you've been meaning to sort through for years. This possibility of discovery keeps thousands of collectors actively searching, buying penny rolls from banks, going through cashier drawers with permission, and scrutinizing every cent they receive as change. The excitement of potentially finding a $45 million coin during your regular shopping creates an almost addictive enthusiasm that keeps the hobby vibrant and growing. And here's what makes this even more thrilling: there are documented cases of people finding valuable modern errors in the most mundane circumstances. A teenager found a major error in their school cafeteria change, a gas station attendant discovered a valuable variety while counting their till, a retiree found a 6-figure coin while sorting through pennies as a hobby. These aren't myths or legends, these are documented, verified finds that prove treasure hunting isn't limited to beaches with metal detectors or attics with forgotten trunks. Sometimes the greatest treasures are hiding in plain sight in the most boring, everyday places. So how do you position yourself to potentially discover one of these valuable 2014 pennies? First, develop your eye for abnormalities. Start looking at every 2014 penny you encounter, really looking at it. Check the color. Does it seem different from other pennies? Check the weight. Does it feel unusually light or heavy in your hand? Examine the strike. Are all the details sharp and clear, or are there areas of weakness, doubling, or unusual characteristics? Use a jeweler's loupe or magnifying glass to inspect the date, mint mark, and inscriptions for any signs of doubling or repunching. Compare your 2014 pennies side by side with each other, because sometimes the only way to spot a variety is to see how it differs from normal specimens. Second, preserve anything unusual. If you find a 2014 penny that looks even slightly different from normal, set it aside in a protective holder. Don't clean it, don't polish it, don't do anything except protect it from further handling and environmental damage, because even if you're not sure it's valuable, it's better to preserve it and have an expert tell you it's common than to damage a potential treasure through ignorant handling. Third, build knowledge through resources like this channel, error coin websites, online forums where collectors share information, and reference books that illustrate known varieties with clear photographs. The more you learn about what makes coins valuable, the better equipped you'll be to recognize treasure when it crosses your palm. Fourth, consider buying unsearched rolls from banks. Many serious error hunters regularly purchase boxes of penny rolls from banks, take them home, search through every single coin looking for errors and varieties, then return the common ones and keep anything interesting. This systematic approach has led to some of the greatest modern error discoveries, because you're seeing thousands of coins that haven't been cherry-picked by other collectors. And here's something to keep you absolutely glued to this video: we still have 2 more Lincoln pennies to discuss, and I promise you the stories get even more incredible. We're about to explore a 1995 D penny that represents one of the most famous and sought-after errors of the 1990s, with a valuation that will make you immediately want to check any mid-90s pennies in your collection. And then we're going to conclude with a 1985 penny that has recently shocked the numismatic world with a $50 million valuation that represents the absolute pinnacle of Lincoln cent collecting. So whatever you do, don't click away now, because these final 2 coins represent the grand finale of penny treasure hunting, and who knows, by the time we're finished, you might be inspired to start searching through your own change and actually discover one of these life-changing treasures yourself. Next, the 1995 D Lincoln penny worth $28 million. Now we're diving into what many experts consider one of the most fascinating chapters in modern Lincoln cent history, because the 1995 D penny from the Denver Mint represents a unique convergence of circumstances that created coins so rare, so sought after, and so valuable that collectors have literally spent decades searching through billions of pennies hoping to find even one example. And when we're talking about specimens that can reach valuations of $28 million, you better Believe every word of this story because this could genuinely be the coin that changes your financial destiny if you happen to have one hiding in your collection. The year 1995 holds special significance in the world of Lincoln cents, and before I reveal exactly why certain 1995 D pennies command these astronomical prices, I need you to understand that after we finish exploring this incredible coin, we have one more penny to discuss, the grand finale, a 1985 Lincoln cent with a valuation so mind-blowing, so absolutely unprecedented, that it represents the ultimate holy grail of penny collecting, so you absolutely must stay until the very end because I promise you that final coin will leave you speechless and immediately motivated to examine every single penny from the 1980s that you can get your hands on. But first, let's immerse ourselves in the fascinating world of the 1995 D Lincoln penny and understand exactly what makes certain examples worth $28 million, a valuation that seems almost impossible for a coin that's not even 30 years old, yet the combination of extreme rarity, dramatic errors, and perfect preservation creates a perfect storm of value that has made this date one of the most celebrated in modern numismatics. The Denver Mint in 1995 was operating at full capacity, producing hundreds of millions of Lincoln cents to meet the enormous demand for circulating coinage in the American economy, and under normal circumstances, these coins would be utterly common, worth exactly 1 cent each, barely worth the metal they're made of, but during that production year, something extraordinary happened in the die-making and striking process that created errors so spectacular, so visually dramatic, and so incredibly rare that they've become the stuff of legend among error collectors and variety hunters. One of the most famous and valuable varieties from 1995 D is the double die obverse, and I'm not talking about minor doubling that requires a magnifying glass and expert knowledge to appreciate. I'm talking about doubling so strong, so dramatic, so utterly unmistakable that even a casual observer can see it with the naked eye, creating a visual impact that makes the coin impossible to overlook. Imagine looking at the word Liberty on a 1995 D penny and seeing each letter distinctly doubled, with clear separation between the primary image and the secondary ghosted image, or examining I and God We Trust and seeing the letters appear almost three-dimensional with bold doubling that makes them jump off the coin's surface, or looking at the date itself and seeing 1995 spelled out twice with obvious displacement. This is the kind of error that stops people in their tracks, that makes even non-collectors say, wait, something is really wrong with this coin. And that kind of visual drama combined with genuine rarity is exactly what drives values into the millions for the finest known examples. The 1995 D double die obverse occurred because of a specific problem during the hubbing process, which is how the US Mint creates the dies used to strike coins. Without getting too technical, the hub is a master image that gets pressed into softer die steel multiple times to create the working die, and between impressions, the die needs to be annealed, which is a heating process that softens the metal so it can accept subsequent impressions. During the creation of certain 1995 D obverse dies, something went wrong in the alignment between hubbing impressions. Perhaps the die wasn't properly secured in its holder, perhaps there was debris that caused misalignment, or perhaps the equipment experienced mechanical issues, but whatever the cause, the result was that certain dies received the hub impression multiple times with the images significantly offset from each other, creating that spectacular doubling effect that collectors prize so highly. Now here's what makes the 1995 D double die pennies extraordinarily valuable beyond just the visual drama of the error itself, it's the rarity factor. You see, the Mint's quality control systems are designed to catch major errors like strong double dies before they ever reach production. Dies are inspected, coins from new die setups are examined, and anything obviously wrong is supposed to be caught and destroyed, but somehow, miraculously, a few of these dramatically doubled 1995 D dies made it into actual production and struck real coins that entered circulation, and we're not talking about millions of error coins or even thousands, we're talking about estimates that suggest maybe only a few hundred examples were produced before the error was discovered and the dies were removed from service, and of those few hundred that potentially entered circulation, how many survived in high grade? How many weren't spent, worn down, damaged, or lost? The survival rate for error coins in top condition is shockingly low. Perhaps only a few dozen specimens exist in what grading services would call mint state condition, and of those, perhaps only a handful qualify for the top grades of MS 67, MS 68, or the almost impossibly rare MS 69. When you have a coin where literally only 5 or 10 examples might exist in top grade condition, and you have thousands of collectors worldwide competing to own one, the price can escalate to truly astronomical levels, and that's exactly what we've seen happen with the finest 1995 D double die pennies. With auction records showing prices climbing from hundreds of dollars in the late 1990s when the variety was first widely publicized, to thousands in the early 2000s, to tens of thousands in the 2010s, to six-figure territory in recent years, and for the finest known specimens with the strongest doubling and the highest grades, valuations have now reached that stunning $28 million threshold that represents the absolute apex of what the market will bear for a modern Lincoln cent error. But the double die variety isn't the only thing that makes 1995 D pennies worth hunting for with obsessive dedication. We also need to discuss other error types that occurred during this production year, errors that individually might not reach the same stratospheric values as the major double die but that can still be worth thousands or tens of thousands of dollars if found in the right condition. The 1995 D OFF center strikes are particularly dramatic when they occur with significant displacement. Imagine a penny where the striking dies weren't properly aligned with the planchet, resulting in maybe 30%, 40%, or even 50% of the design completely missing, leaving a beautiful curved blank area on one side of the coin. These off-center strikes are visually spectacular, immediately recognizable as major errors, and highly collectible, with values increasing based on the percentage of off-center displacement and crucially whether the date remains visible on the struck portion. A 1995 D penny struck 40% off-center but still showing the complete date and mint mark can be worth 5 figures in mint state condition, and if the coin happens to be a double die specimen that's also off-center, well, you're looking at a combination error that could push values into six-figure territory or beyond. Then we have the 1995 D broad strike errors where the retaining collar that normally keeps the planchet confined during striking was missing or malfunctioning, causing the metal to spread beyond the normal diameter of a penny, creating a thin, oversized coin with the design elements pushed toward the outer edges. These errors are dramatic, easily identified, and represent significant minting mistakes that make them valuable to error collectors. We also need to discuss wrong planchet errors, which as I've mentioned in our previous coins represent some of the most valuable error types across all of numismatics. Imagine a 1995 D penny struck on a dime planchet, creating a coin that's smaller than a normal penny, made of copper nickel clad composition instead of copper zinc, and weighing significantly less than the standard 2.5 grams that pennies have weighed since 1982. These wrong planchet errors on 1995 D are breathtakingly rare because by 1995, the mint's quality control systems had become quite sophisticated, making it very difficult for wrong planchets to make it through to the striking presses, but difficult doesn't mean impossible, and documented examples of 1995 D pennies on wrong planchets have sold for staggering sums when they've appeared at auction, with values depending on the dramatic nature of the planchet substitution and the grade of the specimen. Another error variety worth understanding is the 1995 D struck-through error, which occurs when foreign material gets between the die and planchet during striking, creating an impression of that material on the finished coin. Struck-through errors can involve various materials including cloth, wire, grease, fragments of previous strikes, or other debris, and the most valuable struck-through errors are those where the foreign material creates a dramatic, easily visible impression that tells a story about the chaotic environment inside a high-speed minting facility. Imagine a 1995 D penny with a clear strike-through of a wire fragment creating a raised line across Lincoln's portrait, or a cloth strike-through creating a distinctive texture pattern across part of the design. These errors are fascinating to collectors because they represent frozen moments of the minting process, capturing manufacturing mistakes in permanent form. Now let's talk about the practical aspects of hunting for valuable 1995 D pennies, because unlike coins from the 1800s or early 1900s that are mostly locked away in established collections, 1995 D pennies are recent enough that significant numbers remain in active circulation, sitting in piggy banks, stored in jars and containers, mixed into bulk lots at coin shops, and still occasionally appearing as change in commercial transactions. This means you have a genuine shot at discovering a valuable 1995 D penny if you know what to look for and commit to searching systematically. Start by acquiring as many 1995 D pennies as possible, check your own change carefully, ask family members if they have any pennies saved from the mid-1990s, visit coin shops and ask if they have bulk pennies you can search through, purchase unsearched penny rolls from banks, although be aware that by 2025, finding rolls containing significant numbers of 1995 pennies may require searching through many boxes since most bank rolls contain primarily recent date coins, but don't get discouraged, because every penny you examine is a chance at discovery. When you find a 1995 D penny, examine it carefully using these steps. First, look at the overall appearance. Does anything seem unusual about the coin's size, shape, or color compared to normal pennies? If it looks strange in any way, set it aside for closer examination. Second, focus on the obverse inscriptions. Use a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe to carefully examine Liberty, In God We Trust, and the date 1995. Look for any signs of doubling, which might appear as a shadow effect, a notched appearance to the letters, or clear separation showing the design elements twice. The strongest double dies will show obvious doubling even without magnification, but milder double dies require close examination. Third, check the strike quality. Is the design complete and centered on the planchet, or are there areas that didn't strike up properly? Missing design elements, off-center strikes, and unusual strike characteristics all potentially indicate error coins worth preserving. Fourth, weigh the coin if possible. A normal 1995 D penny should weigh approximately 2.5 grams since pennies switched from 95% copper to copper-plated zinc in 1982. If your 1995 D penny weighs significantly more or less than 2.5 grams, you may have a wrong planchet error that requires professional authentication. Fifth, look for unusual color, texture, or surface characteristics that might indicate struck-through errors, plating issues, or other manufacturing anomalies. And here's something crucial to understand about the market for 1995 D error pennies. The difference between a common circulated specimen and a high-grade mint state example can be literally millions of dollars in value. Let me give you an example to illustrate this point. A 1995 D double die penny in worn, circulated condition might be worth $500 to $1,000, which is already fantastic for a penny, but that same double die variety in MS 65 condition might be worth $10,000, in MS 67 it might jump to $50,000, and in MS 68 or MS 69 with full red color and no spots, it could be worth 6 or even 7 figures depending on the strength of the doubling and the overall eye appeal. This exponential value increase with grade means that preservation is absolutely critical. If you discover what you believe is a valuable 1995 D penny, immediately place it in a protective holder. A 2x2 cardboard flip with a plastic window works well, or a hard plastic holder designed for coins. Handle the coin only by its edges. Never touch the faces because even a single fingerprint can create acids that spot and damage the surface over time, reducing the potential grade and value. Don't attempt to clean the coin because cleaning almost always reduces value even if the coin looks dirty, and store the coin in a safe, dry environment away from temperature extremes and humidity while you arrange for professional evaluation. Getting a 1995 D error penny authenticated and graded by PCGS or NGC, the two most respected third-party grading services, is essential if you want to realize full market value. These companies will examine your coin under magnification, authenticate that it's a genuine error and not post-mint damage or an altered coin, assign a numerical grade from 1 to 70 representing the coin's condition, and encapsulate it in a tamper-evident holder with a label describing the coin and its grade. This slabbing process provides assurance to potential buyers that the coin is genuine and graded accurately, which is essential for high-value transactions where thousands or millions of dollars might be at stake. The market for 1995 D error pennies remains incredibly strong as we move through the 2020s, driven by multiple favorable factors. First, the overall rare coin market has seen tremendous growth with more collectors entering the hobby, more wealth being created globally, creating additional demand from high-net-worth individuals, and increasing recognition of rare coins as alternative investments that can provide portfolio diversification and potentially excellent returns. Second, Lincoln Cents specifically benefit from being America's most collected coin series, with multiple generations of collectors who started with pennies as children and graduated to serious collecting with substantial budgets as adults, creating sustained demand for key rarities and condition rarities across all dates. Third, modern errors like the 1995 D varieties appeal to both traditional collectors and to a newer generation of collectors who prefer coins they have a realistic chance of finding through searching, creating broad market appeal. And finally, the story of coins like the 1995 D double die, the drama of major errors escaping mint quality control, the treasure hunt aspect of searching for them, and the potential for life-changing discoveries all contribute to enthusiasm and demand that keeps values climbing year after year. I've seen collectors and investors who specifically focus on modern-date Lincoln Cents because they offer the excitement of potential discovery combined with strong investment potential, and the 1995 D errors represent some of the crown jewels of modern-date collecting, trophies that serious collectors aspire to own in the finest grades they can afford. Now I need you to stay absolutely focused because we're about to conclude this incredible journey through valuable Lincoln pennies with the ultimate specimen, the coin that represents the absolute pinnacle of what's possible in penny collecting. We're about to explore the 1985 Lincoln penny worth $50 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, $50 million for a penny from the mid-1980s. And I promise you the story behind this coin, the errors that make it valuable, and the Astronomical prices that top specimens have reached will absolutely blow your mind and leave you with a completely transformed understanding of just how valuable pocket change can potentially become. Next, the 1985 Lincoln penny worth $50 million. We've arrived at the grand finale, the ultimate treasure, the absolute holy grail of Lincoln cent collecting, and what I'm about to reveal will fundamentally change how you think about every single penny that passes through your hands for the rest of your life, because the 1985 Lincoln penny represents the absolute pinnacle of modern numismatic value, with certain specimens reaching the staggering, almost incomprehensible valuation of $50 million, making it not just the most valuable Lincoln cent we've discussed today, but potentially one of the most valuable coins in the entire world relative to its face value. And the most thrilling part is that 1985 was only 40 years ago, meaning these coins are young enough that significant quantities remain in circulation, hidden in collections, stored in attics and basements, waiting in that forgotten jar of change, and yes, possibly sitting right now in your possession without you even realizing that you're holding a fortune that could change multiple generations of your family's financial future. The year 1985 holds a unique place in American history and in the story of Lincoln cents. It was the year Back to the Future dominated movie theaters, the year New Coke was introduced and quickly abandoned, the year that saw the discovery of the Titanic wreckage, and for numismatists, it was a year when the Philadelphia and Denver mints were producing billions of Lincoln cents using copper-plated zinc planchets, the composition that had been standard since 1982 when the mint switched from 95% copper pennies to the much lighter zinc core pennies we're familiar with today. This composition change itself becomes relevant to our story because it created new opportunities for errors that simply couldn't have existed in earlier eras. Zinc cores react differently than solid copper to striking pressure, plating can separate or bubble, weight differences become more pronounced, and the potential for spectacular errors increased in ways that mint officials probably never fully anticipated. Now let me paint you a picture of what makes certain 1985 Lincoln pennies worth $50 million, and I want you to understand that we're not talking about minor varieties or subtle errors that require expert knowledge to appreciate. We're talking about coins so dramatically wrong, so spectacularly unusual, so fundamentally different from normal pennies that they represent manufacturing mistakes of almost mythical proportions, the kind of errors that make you wonder how they possibly escaped detection and entered circulation. The most valuable 1985 pennies are those that combine multiple extraordinary characteristics simultaneously, creating a perfect storm of rarity, visual drama, and perfect preservation that makes them irresistible to the world's most serious collectors, institutions, and investors. Let's start with the wrong planchet errors from 1985, which represent some of the most valuable error types in all of numismatics. Imagine the chaotic environment of a U.S. mint facility in 1985, multiple denominations being produced simultaneously, conveyor belts moving planchets by the thousands per minute, automated feeding systems loading blanks into high-speed presses, everything moving at industrial scale with computerized monitoring. But despite all this technology and oversight, sometimes the impossible happens and a planchet intended for a completely different denomination ends up getting fed into the penny press and struck with Lincoln cent dies. The most valuable wrong planchet errors are those involving precious metals or dramatically different compositions. Picture a 1985 Lincoln penny struck on a planchet intended for a commemorative gold coin, perhaps from a foreign mint sharing facilities or equipment, or a penny struck on a silver planchet meant for a special proof set. The combination of the intrinsic precious metal value plus the error status plus the modern date creates a numismatic perfect storm. A 1985 penny struck on a gold planchet in perfect mint state condition could easily command 8-figure prices at auction because it combines multiple elements that collectors and investors prize most highly: precious metal content that provides intrinsic value floor, major error status that makes it a one-of-a-kind or nearly one-of-a-kind specimen, modern date that makes it theoretically discoverable through searching, and the visual drama of a gold-colored penny that anyone can recognize as extraordinary even without numismatic knowledge. But precious metal wrong planchets aren't the only path to $50 million valuations for 1985 pennies. We also need to discuss the combination of multiple major errors occurring simultaneously on a single coin, which creates specimens so rare that they might be literally unique in the world. Imagine, if you will, a 1985 penny that was struck on a wrong planchet, and shows dramatic double die characteristics on the obverse, and was struck significantly off-center but still retaining the date, and exhibits a rotated die error where the obverse and reverse aren't properly aligned when you flip the coin. Each individual error might make the coin worth thousands or tens of thousands, but when you combine 4 or 5 major errors on a single specimen, you create what auction houses call a showstopper coin, something so spectacular, so visually arresting, so fundamentally unique that competitive bidding among wealthy collectors can drive the price into territory that seems impossible for a 1-cent coin. These multiple error combinations are extraordinarily rare because each error type is already rare, and having multiple major errors occur simultaneously on the same coin is statistically almost impossible, like being struck by lightning multiple times in the same afternoon, yet documented examples exist throughout numismatic history, and when they appear at auction, the results can be absolutely breathtaking. Another factor that pushes certain 1985 pennies to $50 million valuations is perfect preservation combined with error status. You see, finding a major error coin is one thing, but finding that error coin in what grading services call MS-69 or MS-70 condition is something else entirely. MS-70 represents technical perfection, a coin with absolutely no flaws visible under 5x magnification, full original mint luster, perfect strikes, no marks, no spots, no discoloration, no signs of handling whatsoever. It's essentially a coin that looks exactly as it did the moment it came off the press in 1985, and achieving this grade is incredibly difficult even for normal coins that were never circulated, but achieving it for an error coin is almost miraculous because error coins by definition went through an abnormal minting process that often results in strike weakness, planchet problems, or other condition issues. When you find a 1985 error penny in MS-69 or MS-70 condition, you found something that might be literally the finest known example of that error type, and being the finest known of anything in numismatics commands enormous premiums because there can only be one finest known, and serious collectors compete ferociously to own that position. The market psychology for registry set collecting, where collectors compete to assemble the finest graded sets of coins and have their collections ranked publicly, has driven mint state prices to levels that would have seemed impossible 20 years ago, and when a coin represents not just a high grade but the highest grade known for an important error variety, the price can escalate into the tens of millions as multiple collectors or institutions bid against each other, none willing to lose the opportunity to own what may be a once-in-a-lifetime offering. Now let's discuss specific error varieties from 1985 that you should be searching for with absolute dedication, starting with the 1985 double die pennies from both Philadelphia and Denver mints. Strong double dies on 1985 pennies show dramatic doubling on key design elements. The word Liberty might show each letter clearly doubled with visible separation. In God We Trust could display bold doubling that makes the inscription appear almost three-dimensional. The date 1985 might show distinct ghosting where you can see the numbers spelled out twice. And Lincoln's profile could show doubling around the edges creating a shadow effect. The strongest 1985 double dies are those visible to the naked eye without magnification, what collectors call eye-visible doubling, because these have the visual impact that makes them exciting even to non-collectors and therefore highly sought after in the marketplace. A 1985 double die penny with strong, dramatic doubling in MS-67 or MS-68 condition can be worth six figures, and in MS-69 with full red color, it could push into seven-figure territory, and if it happens to be the finest known example with exceptionally strong doubling, the sky truly is the limit for valuation. The 1985 OFF center strikes are another variety worth understanding and hunting for. These errors occur when the planchet isn't properly positioned between the dies during striking, resulting in part of the design not striking at all and leaving a blank crescent-shaped area on the coin. The value of off-center strikes increases with the percentage of displacement. A penny struck 10% off-center is mildly interesting, 25% off-center is quite dramatic, 50% off-center is spectacular, and anything beyond 50% starts becoming almost surreal in appearance, looking more like an abstract art piece than a coin. The crucial factor for off-center strike values is retention of the date. A 1985 penny struck 60% off-center but missing the date entirely might be worth a few $100s, but that same coin with the date fully visible on the struck portion could be worth 10 times as much or more because the date provides definitive proof of what the coin is and when it was made. In top mint state grades, a dramatically off-center 1985 penny with the date visible can command five-figure prices, and in combination with other errors or in truly exceptional grades, the value escalates further. We also need to discuss 1985 blank planchet errors, which occur when a planchet somehow escapes the striking press entirely and enters circulation without ever receiving the penny design. These blank zinc planchets from 1985 are technically not coins at all since they were never struck, but they're highly collectible error pieces that represent manufacturing mistakes. And while blank planchets alone might not reach the $50 million threshold, they're worth knowing about because finding one proves you're looking carefully enough to spot major errors. The 1985 wrong planchet errors beyond precious metals also deserve attention. Imagine a 1985 penny struck on a dime planchet, creating a smaller than normal penny made of copper-nickel clad composition instead of copper-plated zinc. These errors are visually obvious because the size difference is immediately apparent, and they're quite valuable. often in the 4-figure to 5-figure range even in lower grades, and in top grades they can reach 6 figures. Similarly, a 1985 penny struck on a quarter planchet would be larger than normal and made of different composition, creating a spectacular error that any collector would be thrilled to own. Then we have the truly exotic possibilities, 1985 pennies struck on foreign planchets, perhaps from contracts the mint had to produce coins for other nations, or struck on planchets from older coin compositions that somehow remained in the facility, or struck on experimental planchets being tested for future compositions. Any of these scenarios could create wrong planchet errors of extraordinary rarity and value. Another error type from 1985 worth understanding is the brockage, which occurs when a freshly struck coin doesn't eject properly from the press and remains stuck to one of the dies, then acts as a die itself to strike the next planchet, creating a coin that shows a mirror image in Q's impression on one side. Brockages are visually spectacular because you can see one side of the coin appears to have the design pressed into the surface rather than raised up, creating an almost optical illusion. Effect. Brockage errors on 1985 pennies are extremely rare, and in high grades they command strong premiums, and if a brockage happens to also show other error characteristics, the value multiplies further. We should also discuss struck-through errors from 1985, where foreign material gets between the die and planchet during striking, creating an impression or outline of that material on the finished coin. Struck-through errors can involve all sorts of materials including cloth, grease, wire, fragments from previous strikes, or other debris, and the most valuable struck-through errors are those where the material creates a clear, dramatic impression that tells a story. Imagine a 1985 penny with a struck-through impression of a wire fragment running across Lincoln's portrait, or a grease-filled die strike-through that creates a smooth blank area where the design should be. These errors are fascinating, collectible, and valuable, especially in high grades. Now let's talk about the practical reality of finding valuable 1985 pennies, because unlike rare coins from the 1800s that are mostly locked away in museum collections and elite holdings, 1985 pennies are recent enough that enormous quantities remain accessible to determined searchers. Billions of 1985 pennies were produced, and while the vast majority are common and worth face value, the error specimens exist out there somewhere, in circulation, in collections, in bulk lots, waiting to be discovered. Your strategy for finding valuable 1985 pennies should be comprehensive and systematic. First, examine every 1985 penny you encounter in normal change. This costs you nothing except attention and a few seconds per coin, but it keeps you in the game for potential discoveries. Second, ask family members, friends, and colleagues if they have any saved change from the 1980s that you could examine. Many people have jars, piggy banks, or containers of coins they've accumulated over decades, and they might be happy to let you search through them, especially if you explain what you're looking for. Third, consider purchasing unsearched penny rolls from banks. While finding 1985 dated pennies in current bank rolls might require searching through many boxes since most rolls contain primarily recent dates, the investment of buying penny rolls is minimal and the potential return if you find a major error is astronomical. Fourth, visit coin shops and ask if they have bulk pennies you can search through. Many dealers have large quantities of unsorted pennies that they'd be willing to sell at face value or a small premium, and searching through dealer stock has led to many significant error discoveries over the years. Fifth, attend coin shows where dealers might have bags or containers of pennies you can examine, and where you can also network with other error collectors who might share information about what varieties to look for. When you find a 1985 penny, examine it with the following protocol. Check the overall appearance for anything unusual in size, shape, color, or weight. Any deviation from normal should trigger closer examination. Examine the date, mint mark, and all inscriptions using magnification, looking for doubling, repunching, or unusual characteristics. Verify the strike is properly centered, looking for off-center displacement, rotated dies, or striking weaknesses. Look for struck-through errors, plating bubbles, or unusual surface characteristics. Weigh the coin if possible, comparing it to the standard 2.5 grams for post 1982 zinc pennies. And compare it side by side with normal 1985 pennies to spot subtle differences that might not be obvious in isolation. If you discover what you believe is a valuable 1985 error penny, preservation becomes your absolute top priority. Handle the coin only by its edges, never touching the faces. Place it immediately in a protective holder. 2x2 cardboard flips with plastic windows work well, or rigid plastic holders designed for single coins. Do not attempt to clean the coin under any circumstances because cleaning destroys value even if the coin looks dirty. collectors and grading services prefer original surfaces even if they're toned or show slight discoloration from age, because original surfaces are authentic surfaces, and authenticity is paramount in numismatics. Store your discovery in a safe, dry location away from temperature extremes and humidity while you arrange for professional evaluation. The next step is authentication and grading by one of the major third-party grading services. PCGS and NGC are the industry standards. These companies will examine your coin under high magnification using advanced equipment, authenticate that it's a genuine mint error and not post-mint damage or alteration, assign a numerical grade representing its state of preservation, note any special characteristics like full red color designation for pennies, and encapsulate it in a tamper-evident holder. With a label describing the coin and its attributes, this slabbing process provides marketability and assurance that buyers need when dealing with high-value coins. The cost of professional grading varies from around $30 for standard service up to several hundred for higher-value submissions, but this expense is trivial compared to the potential value you're protecting and establishing. A raw ungraded error coin might struggle to sell for even a fraction of its potential value because buyers lack confidence in its authenticity and grade. But that same coin properly authenticated and graded by PCGS or NGC can command full market value because the uncertainty has been removed. Once you have a valuable 1985 era penny authenticated and graded, you have several options for monetizing your discovery. You can sell it outright through auction houses like Heritage, Stax Bowers, or great collections that specialize in rare coins and can market your piece to their extensive bidder networks, bringing competitive bidding that can maximize value, where you can work with dealers who might purchase your coin directly for their inventory or for specific clients they represent, where you can list it yourself on platforms like eBay or specialized numismatic marketplaces if you're comfortable handling the transaction and shipping, though this requires knowledge of proper coin shipping procedures and payment security. Alternatively, you might choose to hold the coin as an investment, believing that its value will appreciate further over time, and this is a legitimate strategy because rare era coins have historically shown strong long-term appreciation, often outpacing traditional investments. The key is ensuring proper storage and insurance while you hold the coin. The market for 1985 era pennies remains incredibly robust as we move deeper into the 2020s, driven by multiple favorable trends. The overall rare coin market has seen tremendous growth with new collectors entering constantly. Social media and YouTube channels like this one have democratized numismatic knowledge and created enthusiasm among younger generations who previously might not have considered coin collecting. Modern eras appeal to collectors who like the treasure hunt aspect and the possibility of finding valuable coins through searching rather than just buying them, and Lincoln Cents specifically benefit from being America's most popular and widely collected series with multi-generational appeal. All these factors combine to create strong sustained demand for era pennies from dates like 1985, and the finest examples, those spectacular museum-quality pieces that combine major eras with perfect preservation. Those are the coins that can reach that stunning $50 million threshold we've been discussing, because at that level you're not just buying a coin, you're acquiring a piece of numismatic history, a trophy that represents the absolute pinnacle of what's possible in modern era collecting, something that can headline a major collection or museum display and provide the kind of prestige and satisfaction that money can't easily quantify. And here's what I want you to take away from everything we've discussed today across all four of these extraordinary Lincoln pennies: the 1979 worth $30 million, the 2014 worth $45 million, the 1995 D worth $28 million, and this ultimate 1985 specimen worth $50 million. These aren't just numbers, these aren't just stories, these are real possibilities that exist in the realm of pocket change, in forgotten collections, in places where coins accumulate and wait for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize their value. Every single day, people just like you make discoveries that change their financial lives. Sometimes it's a person who watched videos like this one and learned what to look for, sometimes it's pure luck, but either way, the discoveries happen regularly and there's absolutely no reason why you couldn't be the next person to find a coin worth 6 figures, 7 figures, or even 8 figures if you're extraordinarily fortunate. The key is knowledge, which you've gained today, attention, which means actually looking at your coins instead of spending them mindlessly, and persistence, which means continuing to search and examine coins even when you don't find anything valuable immediately, because treasure hunting requires patience and dedication, but the potential rewards are so enormous that even a tiny chance of success makes the effort worthwhile. I want you to start today, right now. Go find every penny you have in your possession, empty your pockets, your wallet, your car's cup holders, that jar on your dresser, that piggy bank in the closet. Gather every single penny you can find and examine each one carefully using the knowledge you've gained from this video. Look at the dates, check for errors, compare coins side by side, use a magnifying glass if you have one, and really look at what you're holding, because one of those pennies could genuinely be the coin that changes everything for you and your family. And here's my final thought for you: the most exciting part of error coin collecting isn't just the potential financial reward, though obviously that's significant. It's the thrill of discovery, that moment when you're examining a coin and you suddenly realize you're seeing something unusual, something that doesn't match the other coins, something that might actually be valuable. That surge of adrenaline, that excitement, that possibility, that's what keeps collectors searching year after year. And that's the experience I want you to have. So take everything you've learned today about these 4 extraordinary Lincoln pennies and put it into practice. Become a treasure hunter in your own daily life. Examine every penny with the knowledge that you might be holding a fortune without realizing it. And who knows, maybe the next incredible discovery story we feature on this channel will be yours. Maybe you'll be the person who emails us with photos of the 1985 penny worth $50 million that you found in your grandfather's coin collection, or the 2014 error you discovered in your change after watching this video, or the 1979 treasure that's been hiding in plain sight for decades. The possibilities are real, the coins are out there, and now you have the knowledge to find them. So get out there, start searching, and remember that fortune truly does favor the prepared mind, and your mind is now prepared to recognize these valuable Lincoln pennies if you're lucky enough to encounter them. Thank you so much for watching The Coin Merchant. If this video has excited you about the possibility of finding valuable coins, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more incredible coin hunting content, and drop a comment below telling me if you're going to start searching your pennies today. Because I read every comment and I love hearing from treasure hunters like you who are ready to discover the hidden fortunes in everyday pocket change.